Hi, welcome to episode 2 of Have Roots Will Travel, Le Chemin du Roi, the King's Road. In case you're just joining us, my name is Lisa Elvin Staltari, and I am a genealogist and a passionate traveler. What we're going to be doing today is visiting the second stop of our, I guess it's going to be 11 stops we've got on this journey on the Chemin du Roi. You can review some of the beginnings of it on episode number 1, where we explore Quebec City. And I talk about why it's so important to understand your ancestors' location and where they lived in order to really get a handle on your own particular history. Now, I just want to let you know that Have Roots Will Travel is a blog. I'm on Facebook. I've got a Twitter account, and of course I'm here on the YouTube, along with my website, Have Roots Will Travel. So if you like this, please subscribe, click on the notifications, and also like this video. All of the above helps me out. Let's get started, shall we? The idea for doing Le Chemin du Roi, a travel log, if you will, came to me as I'm working on my concurrent series on Les Filles du Roi, the King's Daughters, and I also have that on my channel if you want to have a peek. But in order to understand these ladies, I had to understand the towns that they came in, and so I started researching, and I stumbled across this particular path. Now, it was not in existence when the characters that I'm looking at, the ladies that I'm looking at, came along in 1670 and that sort of thing. But this road was a little bit later. But in order to get to the villages, I could take this road. So consider this my travel itinerary, and this is definitely my personal travel itinerary, and I tell everyone, please, if you have any suggestions or corrections, please let me know, because I am going to take this trip, and this is part of the research, and I'm sharing it with you. And so we are historical travelers, so we are going to be focusing on events and things and places that have some historical connection. No sushi bars on this trip for sure. So with that, let's get started. Let's review a little bit about Le Chemin du Roi, the King's Road. It is part of the highway system. It's now known today as Route 138. It's a very long road, this 138. We're not doing the whole thing. On the left side of your screen, you'll see a map of Quebec. There's an arrow pointing at the top right. That's Blanc Sablon. That's where the road begins or ends, depending on your context. And then there's an arrow on the bottom left. That's at Elgin, Quebec, where it ends. So it literally goes through Le Montérégie, Le Naudière, Mauricie, Capitale-Nationale, and the Côte-Nord regions of Quebec. It passes through 37 seigneuries, which, as a student of Quebec history, is phenomenal. The amount of people and families that it touched in the life that it had. It started off probably about 1706, and Le Conseil Supérieur of New France decreed that a road be built between the houses of on the St. Lawrence River by Quebec City and Montreal. And work began around 1731, and it used to include go all the way to Montreal, but sometime around 1905 or so, they just said, or 1910 actually, the portion of that road, which went onto the island, and it is now Gouin Boulevard. So if you find yourself in Montreal on Gouin Boulevard, know that it was part of the King's Road, but is no longer decreed. It no longer has the famous markers. Let me show you the markers. Now, if you are actually going to take the journey and be in your car, as I hope to be with my trailer in tow, down that road, know this, that the actual road itself, let's get real here, is 2 hours and 20 minutes by car. Okay, it's not that long a road. We're taking 11 episodes because we are going in depth to all the villages and visiting. Along the way, you're going to see signs like these are beautiful. Chemin du Roi, you can take your picture along there at every turn, which I plan on doing. And then there are cute ones, Vieux Chemin, the old road, that will let you, in different parts of the road, they'll have their own kind of signage as well. So that's kind of an interesting thing to kind of look for. Welcome to episode 2. Saint Augustine de Desmaures is our first stop. It's a tiny community, but it's an interesting place in Quebec history. It's the first stop along the Chemin du Roi outside of Quebec City. And I found myself in my research going there quite a few times because at least 17 Filles du Roi settled here. So it has a certain connection to the other research I'm doing, but it's a place that I find myself returning. And to be honest, until I did this research, I had no idea about this very famous place. Now let's have a little bit about the history. In 1647, Jean Juchereau, Lord of Mar, is given the seigneury that included this small village. By 1668, the territory begins to be occupied, so it took a while. It was then called Desmaures. Okay. By 1671, a community mill was established at Lake Saint Augustine by the son of the original lord, also named Jean Juchereau de la Ferté. By 1685, Paul Auguste Juchereau de Mars becomes the third seigneur of this community. The name of the parish most probably comes from this son. By 1691, remember, this takes a long time, the establishment of this parish is recognized. Although there are no official documents that prove this date, it's the unofficial start of the parish. At that time, there were about 200 people that were the inhabitants. And what we find about this particular area is that it's famous for maple sugar, for its agriculture, and it is also renowned for its incredible views, as you can see in the picture, across the river to the south shore, cliffs of St. Lawrence, and it really is just an incredible. Can you imagine driving it? I can't wait. To drive this road and just coming out of Quebec City and seeing this obviously almost untouched by history place. Now, the history of the parish is truly one of endurance. In 1694, with the creation of the village, a small wooden chapel was built on the land of Ambroise Desmaures. But unfortunately, it was a little bit too close to the river and it kept getting flooded. So by 1713, they moved it when the Seigneur Paul Juchereau de Mars offered land to the parish. And then by 1719, a stone church was built on this land. It was damaged due to the conquest that happened in 1759. You'll all remember that one. Darn those British. But rebuilt again. In the meantime, as the village grew, the northern part of the village wanted a church of their own. In order to keep the peace, Monsieur Plessis, Bishop of Quebec, said, okay, we'll make one church. And so it was that this church was ordered in 1808 and built in time for opening its doors in 1809. It has remained true to the vision of the master carpenter Jean-Baptiste Bedard, who we will see his work in other churches. And then it had two major renovations it went through in 1872 and 1933. Now, in 2014, the church was renewed again by the addition of the lights that now shine. Can you imagine? As the gateway to Quebec City and the historic road that it finds itself. So you're driving along at night. I can just imagine. And these church lights, it's almost like too emotional for me. And you're seeing these lights beckon you, saying, okay, welcome. You're at the end of your journey, or at the beginning, if you're starting off in Quebec City. Now, the cemetery of Saint Augustine opened in 1694 and it closed in 1714. The second cemetery was used from 1714 to 1857. And then the third cemetery opened in 1810 and is next to the church. And finally, a fourth cemetery was built in 1966. I'm in awe of how Saint Augustine has endured. The new the new cemetery obviously is the one that is in use. And the reason why I go through that history of the cemeteries is because when you're going to be doing genealogy research, you need to kind of have an idea of, oh, okay, there were several cemeteries. Is this one still in existence? Are they using, they call it l'ancien cimetière, première, deuxième, that sort of thing, when you are going to be looking for these for the headstones, if you will. A lot of times, as you probably have surmised, they move the bodies, and so the bodies are put in a communal grave as they move. Sometimes they're not touched, so you'll have to explore that and see what happened to your ancestors' grave, and if it was moved, I've seen it where it's moved from the first to the second to the third to the 4 times. And also in Quebec, there is a 100-year rule. So every 100 years, they have the permission to, kind of move and make room, if you will. It's kind of a little known fact. And when I discovered it, I was like, you're kidding. But this is what they do. Who knew that in this small place, there would be at least 3 dining choices I have to try? The first is a classic. It's called Érablière le Chemin du Roi. It literally is on Chemin du Roi, and is a traditional Quebec sugar shack, as we call it. You haven't lived until you have tried a traditional maple syrup on snow and rolled up on a spoon. I kid you not. That is a thing, of course, and it's only a thing during the sugaring season, which of course is very short as the maple is collected and processed, usually March and April. Many families in Quebec have their own maple syrup. Mine did, and it remains a precious memory for me. The rest of the year, they feature tours and meals that are traditional and classic Quebecois. A must try. I've included the website for you to check that out. The next restaurant I found for my list is kind of new and actually does have sushi. Oh my gosh. But I found it amazing, first of all, that it is this really hip place in the middle of this history, and it's called Shaker Cuisine and Mixology, and it's part of a larger chain that has 14 restaurants sprinkled throughout Quebec, so you might see a few of them. The one in Sainte Augustine is found on the border between Sainte Augustine and Cap Rouge, and it was actually the second one in the chain, so they were kind of like upstart, if you will. The cuisine is Asian fusion with craft beers and cocktails. They also have burgers and steaks and salads. It turns out there's one in Quebec City and in Three Rivers. So 3 of these are along the route. What a find. I mean, seriously, when you look at this, you're like, okay, amazing. And so I include this on the list, even though I said we were going to do history. I include this on the list so you can see how vibrant and forward-thinking les Québécois are, and they will twist something so unusual, and you're gonna eat things that you're just gonna, as they say, it's a party in your mouth. I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly what that is. Now, the third one is a more classic one called Pizzeria Chica et Sympa, which is exactly the kind of quaint and comfy restaurant you'd expect to find in a small village. This is the kind of thing it looks like it's in a small house, a residential house. And when I looked at the menu, I saw a pizza called Pizza Fondue Swiss. Remember I told you about party in your mouth? Got to try that. So, totally not on my diet, but a bite wouldn't hurt, So, Pizza Fondue Swiss. There are no words. Can't wait. Now, if you thought I was excited about Saint Auguste de Dama, you're just going to be incredibly amazed by how my excitement level is even higher about this particular town. Partly because as I've done the research in the series Les Filles du Roi, I keep finding Neuville. It is actually, and we'll talk a little bit about it, the importance of it for my other research. But Neuville is a village on the north shore of the St. Lawrence River. It's just west of Quebec City. It was founded as a town in 1684, and it remains truly picturesque. In 1653, this area was granted as a seigneurie by Jean de Lauzon to Jean Bourdon de Saint-Jean for his son, Jean-François Bourdon de Domburg. Remember that name. who was an engineer, a surveyor, a cartographer, and the attorney general for the sovereign. This guy was a workaholic, it appears. In 1680, the Dombourg Seigneurie was acquired by Nicolas Dupont de Neuville. Thereafter, the seigneurie was known as Neuville. So sometimes you're going to see this. If you're doing research early on in this area, you're going to maybe see references to Dombourg and then eventually Neuville. So it's important that you understand the seigneurie and their history is very important to the backdrop of your research. Now, by 1679, they finally get a parish. The Saint Francois De Sal parish was formed. It became a civil parish in 1684. And the place was also called Pointe aux Trembles, in reference to the point on which the church was built, which was once covered with aspen and birch. And tremble means birch. And it is said, local legend has it, that you could feel the shaking of the trees, if you will. Now, a point that I need to always make whenever I talk about Pointe aux Trembles in relation to Neuville, most people going into Montreal and Quebec and understanding Quebec have heard of Pointe aux Trembles because there is a Pointe aux Trembles on the island of Montreal, and we will explore that at some future point. But Pointe aux Trembles, as it exists, and this is part of the parish. It was also known, this is also a place that you're going to see Pointe aux Trembles. So it's important in your research, when you're seeing Pointe aux Trembles, make sure it's the Quebec one or the Montreal one, because it really will make a huge difference in your research. Again, I've included some notes. I've included the incredible work by the historians of Neuville. I cannot wait to shake any of their hands, because their website is amazing, what they've done. I'm probably going to be ordering some books, struggling through the French, even though I speak French. Reading French is not always as easy. Just tremendous. I've included their information as well, so you can get in touch with them. So this is the famous Eglise Saint Francois De Sal. It is truly at the heart of Neuville. It's located on Rue Érable, which means Maple Street. So it's a little bit inside of, you got to see this church. I mean, really, this actual church was built in 1854. And the original church that was built between 1696 and 1750 no longer is present, but it is believed some of the foundations may remain. So it's built on top of it. And the canopy is a piece of the furniture made around 1695 and commissioned by Monseigneur de Saint-Vallier, and is said to be among the oldest set of religious art in Canada. It's made its way to the parish of Neuville in 1717 and was exchanged for wheat to feed the poor. It has remained in the church ever since. I gotta see this. Just an amazing thing. And of course, you have the cemetery right next to it, and it was part of the beginning of that parish as well. But truly a stunning interior of this church. Now, in my research, I came across the website that lists all the historical homes and buildings and, placards and things like that. It's through the Ministère de Culture. I've tried as much as possible to pick the ones that are on Route 138 or close to it. So it gives you an idea as you're driving through. Some of these homes, these are private homes. These are not eligible for touring, but at least you can gaze at them in amazement. When you see, and the reason why they're named those names is usually, not always, it was the original owner's name. So if that happens to be a name in your genealogy, you need to check that out. Maison Soulard was built in 1759, Maison Denis in 1760, Maison Loriot, 1768, and Maison Dervaux, 1785. Now, those first three homes were there before the American Revolution. Just think about that. Imagine them hearing the news about Lexington. Maybe they did. I don't know. But it's just amazing to know that those houses have withstood that. Certainly this is a very, very important historical town to travel through. I wanted to mention as well that Neuville is one of those places where more Filles du Roi went to. I believe it's the third largest place where les Filles du Roi emigrated to, other than, I think there were 101 in Sillery, and then 47 in Neuville, and then 46 in Montreal. So it goes to show you how important, when you're doing Quebec history, how important Neuville will be in your research. You're going to end up here, is what I'm trying to say. If you have strong Quebec roots, at some point you will end up here. Now there's going to be so much to do and see that I know I'm going to need to, find lodging. So I went around looking at Neuville and said, okay, what do they have that's historic? I didn't even look to see if they had any kind of regular hotel. I'm sure they do. But Le Guide aux Quatre Délices means the cottage of four delights, which I think refers to the fact that there are 4 rooms in this amazing cottage looking now dating back to, guess what, 1690. So that's even older than the buildings that we just looked at. But this is a commercial establishment, so it's a little different than the private residences. The owners offer not only a room and a breakfast, but you can also add a supplemental. In French, it's called a forfait. And you can add a forfait, an additional service for a cocktail service. I'm in. And get this, a fondue package. Each edition or forfait is $20. It looks also amazing. It's on my top of my list. Now, Le Demeure du Captain is a more traditional. It's a captain home, and it's a Victorian home that looks like another amazing place to stay. And I can see, with a view of the St. Lawrence, that must be stunning. And it is also found on the Rue des Arabes, which, as you know, the Rue des Arabes is where 138 is. It's called, Route 138 is called Rue des Arabes in Neuville. So you can know that you're still on the road. So both of those places look amazing. Now, I'm also going to get hungry on this road trip, right? So I looked around again to see what I could find that it was indicative of the culture of Quebec. On the bottom right of your screen is a place called Chemin, and it is owned by La Ferme Langlois Fils. And you can purchase farm fresh products here. And I have to go and see this. This is like a pilgrimage. This farm has been in the same family, the Langlois family, since 1669. And it just so happens that the original Langlois is my 9 times great-grandfather. This is like something I have to see. I literally have to go there and just, soak it in, and I'll buy whatever I can take into the car. Now, on the upper right, the middle part, La Saupignac Québécoise, is not a place to eat. It's more of a bath and body. Again, all made in Quebec, and something that is very authentic to the place. You will find that the Québécois are very focused on beauty, and just culturally they resonate with not only beautiful things, but with beautiful food. Their food not only looks beautiful, but tastes incredible as well. Le Domaine des Trois Moulins is a winery. Need I say more? I have to try that one, which means it's Moulin des Trois Moulins. It has got an interesting history because it means the land of the 3 mills, and it's truly a historical site. At one time on this property, there existed a series of mills, 3 in fact, hence the name. The first one in 1690, and then 1725, and then 1850. In 1856, the gentleman who owned the land went bankrupt, and for the rest of the 150 years, it essentially was not utilized for business. But in 2001, a married couple bought the land with the intention of a second home, but upon realizing what they had purchased, they began through trial and error to build a vineyard, which 20 years later is still going strong. I have to visit this winery, not only because I love wine, but because this story is so compelling, and it truly is a reflection of the kind of, love of the land and appreciation for history that is very, very pronounced in Quebec. The next one is kind of a small sandwich shop. Le Bed de Quai is sandwich and salad, but don't be thinking that it's like a Subway. I urge you to check out this menu. It looks so amazing, and again, very, very Quebecois, with its creative twist on food, from steak and salmon tartares to pizza, pokes, and burgers. I think you'll be impressed, okay? It's just truly. And l'Esprit de Clocher, which in English means church tower, is a microbrewery that at one time, as best as I can determine, also was a pub. I think they're trying to resurrect the pub, but the microbrewery is still strong, producing IPAs and ales. I might have to give a beer another chance if I visit here. I know my husband will be all over this one, and we will definitely be checking this one out. Well, so ends another day. We've explored Saint Augustine de Dama and Neuville. Lots to see, lots to do. And I will see you on episode number 3. Until then, au revoir.